All right, good afternoon, cyber traders. Welcome on back here this Wednesday, June 22nd. Great to see Bobby, Norman, Steve, Kathleen, Michael. We got who else joining us here? We got Robert joining us still. Great to see him. Chuck, Grant, of course. Great to see Grant. And all of us live inside the Cyber Group room. Great to see you all. Great to see us all back on social media. Got a frog in my throat there to begin, pardon me. So, folks, great to see everybody, but we have class continuing on this afternoon right at 3:05 Eastern Time. So I know that Rich will post the link for the Phase 2 stock course coming up just in a bit. But, we got to make sure that we finish up this meeting in time so we all have enough time to prep and get ready for class. So right now, blue, it's on the screen here to begin. It's up, it's up an 11, it's up another 11% today. It's been a tongue twister day for me here, but ended up making a big squeeze after the market opened up and actually just broke a new high later on. So it still looks pretty active. It's pulling back a bit off said high, but very tradable. I know that Kathleen just dipped in and out on this for a small profit. Steve was on VEDU just before, which we'll get to next. But a few of us in and out on this trade throughout the morning, heading into the early afternoon. It also is shortable. So if this fails to break any higher, if there is a lot more selling on this trade heading into the close, then it's definitely something to be mindful of in terms of a potential short. So for right now, blue, I'll just put on our watch list to begin. I would still respect the trend up here for right now. That being said, this stock's had a pretty funky last week and a half or so. Ended up gapping up from 375 all the way up towards 6. Dropped all the way back down to 3. Moved all the way back up now to where it's at today. So it's just to say that, on this stock, like all these others that we're going to be going through, when the volume dies off, well, thankfully, this one's at least still pretty liquid, but when the volume dies off, typically so does the stock itself. So that's where I say for an even thinner trade in terms of the, volume on the bid and the ask, a thinner order book generates a, more volatile, bigger shake type of stock. So, this one's right up our alley. I like this one a lot with that in mind. So, hopefully this one ends up breaking higher for us at least. But, right now the SPY actually just broke higher before we started the meeting. Then ended up beginning to pull back here kind of within the range that it was within throughout the day. So that's just something to kind of be mindful of too, because if it just fails to break out of this range again, which, it seems like right now it's kind of containing itself back under the highs. So if it fails to break any higher for as much as the market's recovered from yesterday into today, you could definitely see a bit of a shake back down heading into the close. So, just be careful in that regard too. But let's go across the top here from the gainers to the losers lists here. Got OBCI. I don't know if there's a buyout or not. I haven't checked in on this trade up until right now. I assume it is, looking at the 5-minute. Yeah. Ocean Biochem. Good for them. But can't really trade it. So now PEV, this one trading a lot more volume. So, it could have been a buyout, but I know a few of us were jumping in and out of this one just earlier too. It's been a tough day with the throat here, folks. My apologies. But nonetheless, I know that Bobby was in and out on the PEV trade, if I'm not mistaken. A few of us were just across the early afternoon once it broke out from that 625, 630 resistance. The issue on it right now, and you could just tell, and Scott wrote it in the chat board here, it's halted, and not the good halt. It's not the good type of halt, folks. And not every up halt is going to be good, but this is a down halt, and much more often than not, down halts are not good. That's typically game over for a trade. So, that I'm not really too, happy to see. But, hey, it ended up making a nice push from earlier, even after a down halt. Looks like it got halted down once earlier today and ended up breaking higher. So, it's not impossible, but it's definitely very unlikely. So, with this being the second down halt, I definitely think even that much more unlikely now. We'll come back to it at the end, just to kind of show. We'll do a little fireworks show here at the end and see what happens. The VEDU trade, so another one from earlier today, more across the early afternoon. We had called this out. Rich did in the chat board, broke over 150 and made a great run from there, right? Easy to say, but stock dropped off from like 28, 25 bucks back from, a month ago or so, month and a half ago or so, dropped all the way down. So reminds you of something, right? We talked about that in Traders Talk just yesterday. That's our weekly Q&A workshop. And, we're talking about AERC and all these other stocks that, for one reason or another, from one price or another, ended up getting crushed over time. And, again, for whatever reason it is, you're seeing a big squeeze up right now. So one of her longtime students, Kathleen, chatted me on the side earlier today. And, I appreciated her doing that because, I can't scream it any further from, the mountaintops I already scream it from. I'm here to help folks. If there's a question you have smack in the middle of the day, all you got to do is private chat me. So Kathleen wrote to me earlier. This, I think, is a Trader's Talk question, but how is it that when we're having a quiet day, when from out of nowhere, some stock we haven't been watching pops like VEDU did today? She sent that at 2:01 Eastern time. So I wrote back at 2:02. I said, great question. And I wrote back, I said, well, A, it could have been news related, right? Like, hey, if there's just any sort of news that comes out, it could generate a great reaction. But what the reaction consists of, and this is whether it's news or not, I mean, just, this leads me to the second criteria as to why this could have potentially popped. For one reason or another, what if, just investors, or not investors, but let's just say, traders that are short on this stock look to cover their position? Even without the reason of news. Well, it generates what we day traders here call a short squeeze, right? And, I don't know the short float on this. I don't know the percent of the float that's short, but it's to say, I mean, hey, this is making a very big run up on the intraday. It dropped off on the historical charts from 28, 25 bucks all the way down to sub 2, even sub 1. I don't have any news out on this stock right now, so that just leads me to think it's just people covering short, and then it's us traders here, day traders perhaps, looking to try and ride the wave on the way up. Again, though, look what happened once we ended up seeing the volume die off here, big shake down, and then, even just over the last couple of moments, we had a nice little volume pop, but what's happened since? Not a whole lot, so just be careful of that. VEDU, I'll put this on our list. Looks good. All right, so I see we have a lot of us joining us right now on YouTube or Facebook Live, kind of just like joining in over the last 30 seconds or a minute here, folks. So the bigger talking point across this afternoon meeting is really seeing the S&P here and the S&P ETF SPY. It's pulled back off the new high of the day that it made. You'd like to think it's still kind of trending upward. Yeah, it's great. But if it holds within the range it's made off the highs from earlier today, I can anticipate a bigger drop into the close. So that's what we were kind of leading off this meeting with, if you're kind of just joining us right now. But for right now, we have the blue stock on the watch list. We have the VEDU trade. Let's see what else we got. We also got a scratchy throat if you're joining us here late today, too. Kirkland, how about this? Why do you think I was so quick to click on Kirkland? Talking of tongue twisters today. Well, if you joined us back in early 2020 during the pandemic, well, let me take a look on the daily chart here. This is my first personal look on Kirkland today. Just, luck of the draw, it's running up right now. It's up over 22%. It's cheap. It's, trading a lot of volume. So with that reason, I clicked on it. But there's another reason I clicked on it, folks. There's another reason. History has a tendency to repeat itself, right? I might have to go back even that much further because it's been that much longer since the pandemic, since the beginning of the pandemic here. So that's pretty funny. All right, let me go back a number of years here. Sorry for the bad radio joining us right now, but nonetheless, you could see this Kirkland trade ended up dropping off from 12 all the way down to 2, all the way down to 1. And that was during, before the pandemic, and here we are now, just coming off the rebound back in, June, May of 2020, after the markets bottomed out. This is one of the stronger short squeezes we ever witnessed here. Ended up making this huge run over time. So, that's where I say, these are the types of runs that you'll never forget. And with that in mind, that was the main reason. I was like, oh, let me just click on Kirkland really quickly here. And what do you know? Making a huge run. Already he's made a big move. But why can't the stock keep going, right? Not going to make a move all the way back up to whatever it was at, 25, 30 bucks, or if not more. But, if this can make a fraction of the type of run it made back then, that's a home run for us here. So, hopefully there's a lot more left on this trade. Kirkland right now, I would assume major resistance to be off of 5. I don't have my level 4 up on this trade right now. So, I would just assume the whole number, $5 would be a big level. We had XXII from earlier today, too. Another familiar name back from the last couple of years. On and off, we've traded the stock off of earnings or various news. Just more of a level 1 or 2 stock. So, myself and Fausto are pretty happy to call this one out early after the market opened up today. But it already made a big move. It's more washed up than anything right now at this point. So, not a whole lot more left there. Kirkland with where that's at, that's exactly where you would want to see a stock this time of the day. All right, I'll tell you what here, folks. Not a whole lot left on the gainer side here right now. A couple of other familiar names that were on the list earlier, but they've definitely dropped off at this point. So SIGA, that was a great pop from the morning. That was an even better short. I ended up shorting that, actually. Great drop off on the SIGA, but hey, great rebound after. So we'll check in on that one. A couple of other sideless stocks, I'm sure, at the end. The ATHA stock, I just got stopped out on this trade right now. I didn't make mention of it up until right now. I was calling it out just a moment ago inside our live trading room, but I was short on this trade a couple of times just before. I was in from 285. And it was dropping off at first. A lot of selling off the big 285 level. We noted that inside the live trading room. You can see the big red volume spike there. And that could still be in play for this afternoon. So I ended up taking 2 cents on the first trade. I ended up getting stopped out when it just spiked back up here. So I took a -1 after. I set a really tight stop. As we started the meeting, as I was stumbling over my words, I made sure I ended up getting stopped out on that trade. But if it breaks back below 285, I could definitely be interested in re-entering. So, if I wasn't teaching class, that would be my MO. I might still do that, but either way, we'll be in the phase 2 course later on this afternoon. So, for those of us not joining me, if you're looking to trade, it's definitely a good setup to follow right now. That 285 level just has to make a cleaner break under it, not just hold under it. You want to see a good reaction off the level. So I ended up getting into the trade right over here once it popped up and under. Thought I was off to a good start, and it squeezed up. So that was after I ended up getting out and taking my first profit, but it's still in play. If this ends up needling back under 285, this could be a pretty good short here. You'd figure for as much as it dropped, when is it going to move back up? Well, if that's what you're thinking, I mean, there was a small squeeze earlier today, but you've been thinking that for a long time now at this point. So, you can't disrespect the direction the stock's going in or has been going in from earlier today. Now, if it ends up breaking back over 3 and holds over 3 as support, then perhaps I flip script and we anticipate a dead cat bounce. But, otherwise, if it breaks under 285, I think you have a pretty good, chance to see this break a new low before the end of the day. TELL. This one's dropping off too. The only difference on this one compared to the ATHA is like liquidity. This one's like too liquid. It's going to take a lot to see the stock break lower and make it like a respectable move going down. So, that's where I say at least, the ATHA is right up our alley. This one is definitely more like level 1 or level like 0.5 for kind of categorizing it. But right now I'll pass on this. An LPI, that's not really trading a whole lot of volume. Cost trade, I think, is also going to be a little too slow. A little bit thinner, I guess, compared to that last one, but still. All right, folks, I'll tell you what. I'll toss it to all of us on YouTube first, then all of us inside the live trading room next. But if there's anything else looking good, type it in the chat board here. Let me know. Got from Bobby on YouTube, GGPI. That was a crazy one from yesterday. Right, ended up making a big move up, and I was watching the move in full. I mean, I was actually taking pictures for Fausto's webinar at the time and ended up catching it. So actually, to go over what happened yesterday on this trade very briefly, ended up seeing a big order on the S get broken over at 11. So resistance ended up getting broken through at 11 there. But shortly afterwards, we ended up seeing this big 44,000 share order on the bid pop up right there, and that's what led to this run up at the time. Well, long story short, no pun intended, this ended up dropping off over time because this ended up because the iceberg order at 11, he was moving it up over time, but he pulled the rug, and from there the stock ended up dropping off. Once we ended up seeing the volume die off, what happened to the stock after? So you always hear me say the same lines or rhetoric for a reason. Same could easily be said here. So it's a good call out from Bobby. I mean, hey, it's up over 6%. Order book isn't bad. It's good. Trading 4.3 million shares and counting right now, but it's already beginning to make that drop, and it's hard to borrow, so you can't really look to short it. I don't think. I mean, you can request shares, but if you can't short it, then there's better stocks to follow. So I'll consider it. Let's see what else is out there from RJF, the AERC trade. Same thing. Yeah, this one's even thinner, right? Order book is much less liquid. So, I'm sure the AUVI is making a similar type of spike. And I guess I'm wrong with that. It's not exactly. The AUVI and AERC were kind of moving together the last couple of days. But, this one also has a pretty thin book if you look at it. All right. So let's see what else we got from the live trading room. Rosina, MREO is not worth watching. Nah, it's down 13%. Could you short it? Are you trying to go long? I mean, we're trying to day trade, right? So we only have an hour and 15 minutes left. What has this stock done in the last hour and 15 minutes? It's moved up 5 cents, 6 cents, up and down. We're not trying to swing trade these or, hold these overnight. There's a difference between a swing trade and a day trade. You know that going into the position, right? So, every call out, at least that we make inside our live trading room, that's designed as a day trade call out. Unless if you're told otherwise. We're very distinct about that. Fausto at least is, and myself too at times. But Michael says big drop on Coles about 45 minutes ago. He is not wrong with that. That is a big drop, and I didn't notice that until right now. Pretty interesting. Let's check the news out on this trade really quickly. I got a tiny amount of time, not too much, but enough to look up news on Coles. All right, so Coles trading lower following reports suggesting Franchise Group is considering lowering its bid for Coles from about $60 to closer to about $50 per share. That's the news that came out. So, I mean, hey, buy the rumor, sell the news, and vice versa, right? So, once it dropped off, it led to a nice dead cat bounce after. Is it possible it can continue to squeeze up later on today? It certainly is, actually. I mean, it's 38 right now. So if they're calling for 50 a share, I mean, that's still pretty below where it's looking to be bought out at. So in the sense of this, it led to a big drop and then dead cat bounce at first. You hope to see it continue. I'd watch to see what happens at 38, though, to see if that gets retested as support or not. But for right now, it seems like it's like making that slow, gradual drop off. So I feel like there's a bigger shake ahead, and then we'll see what comes on this Coles trade. I like this. Good call from Michael in here. So was this on the top 50 losers? Yeah, probably will be at some point here. I guess it's not here right now, but it probably will be. But good call. That's why we ask, right? PEV halted down. Let's check back in on that trade, right? We talked about PEV earlier just before. So, ended up reopening up, but for as much as it pumped up, don't get stuck, buying at the top here, right? Not every stock's going to be AERC. So, that's my concern. I'm not going to feature this on the watch list, after we finish up this meeting and once we begin class. If this actually looks a lot better of a trade, just note that we would be calling it out from that point, right? Once it proves itself out to be a lot better of a trade, we'll look to, call it out and feature it more. But if this ends up just dropping off right now, I mean, there's no real move on this trade, given how much it already extended up. I know it's a new IPO, so we haven't really found its true levels yet or range. But you know what? This will be a great stock to follow coming up in class later on this afternoon, solely because this afternoon's class, we're going to be talking all about identifying a stock's range and the increments that it trades within. So, we'll talk about that at least here. We'll also feature stocks that we know the levels for, stocks like American Airlines, NEO, GM, Ford, maybe that Coles trade that Michael brought up. So that was a good one too. Actually, speaking of, I think that's a pretty good idea. So, for all of us live inside the trading room, if you wanted to join us live inside the class later on today, first, you need to have access. So as a trial member or as a bronze level student, I don't believe you have access to this. So as a silver, gold, platinum, diamond, CTU student itself, you have access. Make sure that you click the link right there that Rich posted inside the chat board. I'm going to just join very shortly after we finish up this call. All right, folks. Then for all of us that don't have access, just make sure that you call our office. Just talk to your education advisor. If you've yet to do so, they're kind of the middleman between you and Fausto, you and myself. So I'm going to actually post the number to our office here for any of our new trial members in particular that haven't done that walkthrough yet. Please, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. They're just here to answer any questions, kind of just get you on the right track, and also show you the recordings of all the workshops that you have access to. For all of us on YouTube, RJF, Bobby, and all of us just joining us live, all of us joining us on the recording. Well, hey, if you have any other questions, feel more than free to send over an email yourself, josh@ctutrading.com. Right there, I always like to post my email at the end of these streams. Any questions or thoughts, comments, suggestions that you may have, definitely let me know. Before we begin class, I'm going to refill up on water. My mouth, I don't know what's going on. All right, folks, I appreciate you dealing with me here across the last 20 minutes and 30 seconds. But otherwise, if you're interested in joining our live trading room, go right down to the link on the yellow banner below the stream to get yourself started. But for Leda, Grant, Michael, Robert, and for those of us joining me live, I look forward to seeing us in class later on today. For those of us not joining me live, then best of luck trading here going into the market close. Talk to you all soon.
Become a Cyber Group member today. Just click the link below and receive all these amazing products and a world of knowledge for just $9. Do it today.